Hello, everybody. It's Christina Fasonic from, as my hat says, Wheeling, West Virginia. It's been 7 weeks since I entered quarantine, so I've got really bad hair, and I'm wearing my hat tonight. So tonight we have a new writer, and my friend Damien here is going to introduce him. How are you tonight, Damien?
I am well, thank you. I also have really bad hair, but I don't have good enough judgment to find a hat.
Look at you, you're fuzzy too.
I couldn't even find a razor, let alone a hat.
Oh my goodness, get a goat. What? It's the ecological solution.
I turned it into lamb chops thinking it was a sheep. I know me. I'm not to be trusted.
That's horrible. Before we introduce Phil tonight, whom I have never met before, I wanted to let everybody know I just had this great idea today. I don't know if you saw it, but Appalachian Studies Association is meeting at Ohio University in Athens this year in March for the first time in 44 years that it's ever existed. And I thought that it would be a great idea if us Northern Appalachian folks, writers and archaeologists and scientists and whatever else, not just us writers, had a meetup there. So look for that coming up soon. That'll probably be facilitated through the Northern Appalachian Network at Cal U. So I wanted to say that before we introduced our writer tonight.
I love that idea. I think it's absolutely outstanding.
Now to carry it off.
I think we'll have no trouble.
All right. Anyway, so go ahead and make your introductions.
Tonight we have Pennsylvania poetry legend Phil Terman. I'm very fortunate. Phil is actually a colleague of mine at Clarion University. Phil is the author of not one, not two, not three, not four. I'm not even going to keep going like that. He's the author of 8 books of poetry. Most recently, Our Portion, New and Selected Poems. Phil was kind enough to give me a copy of New and Selected. It is, I say, as soon as the bookstores open, run out and buy this book. It is deeply impressive. And I felt very timely. Just terrific work. His work, My Dear Friend Kafka, was translated into Arabic, published in Damascus, Syria. Phil's poems have appeared in like the places where every poet wants to be. Poetry Magazine, the Kenyan Review, the Georgia Review, the Sun Magazine. They were also included in a mural by James Simon, the Singing Musicians, at the Squirrel Hill Food Pantry. And Phil is also all-around literary great guy, the coordinator of the Bridge Literary and Arts Center in Franklin, Pennsylvania. So please give a warm virtual welcome to Phil Terman at WCONA Live.
All right. Wow, thank you, Damien. Yes, there you are.
Well, suddenly I appear. Wow. Thanks, Damien.
Howdy.
Thanks, Christina.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you. You're at one of our sister schools. I'm at Cal. You're at Clarion.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I'm an Ohio University grad. So.
Are you seriously? Great.
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
OU is the best. Can you believe that Appalachian Studies will finally be there this year?
What a perfect place for it too. It's a beautiful.
Yes.
Wonderful, with a great long history of wonderful writers and poets and literary icons.
Well, and in a way, it's at that border crossing too between Southern Appalachia and Central Appalachia and the North.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like this perfect overlap. So, But anyways, I'll get off the screen and let you read from your work. So have at it.
Well, thank you. Okay. So Damien, thanks for the sweet words about Our Portion. This is what it looks like. And as soon as the bookstores are open, order it from Autumn House Press, because it's a wonderful press, and they did an incredible job. And I want to thank James Simon, the sculptor, for letting me borrow a piece of it for his sculpture for the cover. So I'm going to read. The first thing I'm going to read is a poem from a longer section about poems for my brother, who passed away exactly 14 years ago today. So it's his anniversary. And so I'm going to commemorate that by reading a section from his poem. The poem, he was a scientist, and I think science is a good time to revere scientists. It's called What We Own. It's from the poem called For a Scientist Dying Young. What We Own. I followed you down the switchback trail of the Grand Canyon, and we slept in a crevice, and we own that. We own the moments tossing the football in front of 4073 Wyncote Road until the streetlight snapped on. And we own the smoke bomb the cops threw at us and 1,000 others at the Jefferson Airplane concert, Akron, Ohio, 1972. And we own the whole country we passed through, all the way to the ocean, where we checked into a hotel and you discovered, lying atop a Gideon's Bible, a black film canister's worth of weed and a half a pack of rolling papers, and we smoked it, and it was good, unbelieving of our luck, which we own, and the lunar landscape surrounding our tent in Big Bend, Texas, and the stars, so close we could read by them, and we did. And we own The Godfather, Part 1, on the big screen of that packed theater in Evanston, Illinois. And we own that fear when we were lost in the Tennessee woods into the dark, and you followed some analytical instinct until we found, lo and behold, a road. And Bob Dylan, who was ours, and Joan Baez, who was also ours, singing "The Times They Are Changin'" and the War Memorial, and watching the Indians, miracle of miracles, beat the New York Yankees at Yankee Stadium during the 1995 heat wave. That too, that victory was ours. And I remember how quiet you sometimes were, and I asked you about it, and you said, it's a feeling you get, you don't know how to talk about it. And I'd like to think we owned that feeling, how we bested the myths. We didn't become murderer and victim. We didn't cheat on the other's birthright. Oh, my brother of the other world, my brother who perhaps will greet me when I arrive at that place prepared for by our Father, who is now joined by his own flesh and blood, which is not flesh, but bones and perhaps spirit, which we believe in, like the moon, or the unpredictable Cleveland weather, or the way the snow descends on the fallen leaves, or how the sun glazes them now, for their moment, stirred in the slight wind, the same wind that blew the Jerusalem dust in our faces, which we own. Now, my brother was, as I say, a scientist, and he he did research, cancer research, at Albert Einstein Medical College in the Bronx in New York. And he discovered a receptor, and so he was pretty famous in that capacity. But I have a poem about Albert Einstein, as a matter of fact, not about the Albert Einstein Center, but since he worked at the Albert Einstein Medical Center, here's a poem. I actually met Albert Einstein at the Soup Kitchen in New York. This is called Albert Einstein at the Soup Kitchen. Do I like it? Do I look like anyone? He asks, as he swoops the long spoon into the peas, lifts it a few inches, and holds it steady to pour onto the tray of the next famished mouth. Shouts to George for more as his supply empties down. I'm the bread and donut man in this assembly line of volunteers who gather for our 3 hours of weekly service and socialism. There's Jose, the finger-pointing Filipino who pours the punch and repeats, the wages of sin is death. And he only reads Paradise from the Divine Comedy for his description of heaven, Jose says, and light. And there's Jake the Buddhist, who scrapes the dishes as they are returned, saves whatever appears untouched for someone else's insatiable hunger. And then there's Sal, who tells me he was on the other side of the line, meaning he was one of the 1,000 who form every morning single file around the Church of the Apostles, up 9th Avenue and around 28th Street, like the snake, he chants, looking out the window beyond Crack Park, cursed above the beasts of the city to eat dust all the days of its life. And their eyes are filled with dust, drugged and sleepy, bodies stiff from sidewalk cardboard sofas. The P-Man, it turns out, looks like Albert Einstein, the shaggy white hair and the white mustache, the pronounced nose and the dark, sad eyes. I'm an actor, he explains. They pay me to look like the genius. He shows me his card, E = MC², Equity equals many characters, and I'm honored to be near even the resemblance of the man, not because I understand relativity and the contradicting theories of light, but because of how steady he is with a spoon, filling each helping to the brim, as if each portion should be equal and abundant. Okay, so that was the Albert Einstein experience. The next poem to read is a section from another long poem. I like to write long poems with sections. From a poem called The Used Car Lot. My father was a used car dealer in Cleveland, and he survived the Depression and the war. And this is a section called A Cast of Thousands about my father's brother, Hi. But the poem pretty much tells a story, I hope. A Cast of Thousands. My dad's kid brother, Hi, worked 14-hour days at Cotton Club Soda Factory through the Depression and the war, dreaming of stardom. 18, wavy black hair, 6'6", dimples, everyone's head would turn when he'd stride like an undiscovered star through the double doors of Corky and Letty's Delicatessen, where you would take a number and order the smoked fish, the lox, the spicy corned beef, the herring and wine sauce and sour cream from the old women in red schmattes, speckled with vanilla splotches, faces patched with rouge and lipstick, wishing all the customers a mazel tov and filling the air with their kibitz song, "You want I should slice the challah? What's the matter? Here, you think it's not fresh?" And the clatter and the clutter from the meat counter, and the kvetching in the corner booth where the altar cockers gathered and kibitzed about the machers and the kanakers. My father had his own parable about the man who was paid a ruble per day to wait by the Eastern Wall for the Messiah. "How can you work for such low wages?" they asked the guy. The guy replied, "Low wages, sure, but at least the work is steady." My father's brother, though, hitchhiked all the way for a role in the Ten Commandments. He played a slave, and then he went into real estate. Each year it appears around Passover, like Elijah, and we'd watch close, my father suddenly pointing to the set. "There he is! No, wait, there he is! No, I'm sure this time, it's him!" All of us straining for the familiar face. He's still the one they all ask about. Some days, when it's dark early, my father comes home from the used car lot, kicks the snow off, tells us how none would start, and it seemed his blood would stop, and we should all be in California. So, all right, I'm going to move on to maybe one poem left. I don't know how much time I have, so if I have another a shorter poem at the end, if I have time.
Absolutely.
Okay, there we go. This is a poem that was written not long ago. It's a new poem, and it's a poem you don't want to write. It's about a very dear friend who just passed away from the coronavirus. I want to dedicate this poem to my sister-in-law, Susan Terman. It's called Zoom Meeting for Mr. Goldberg. Early morning, the only two up, me writing on the couch, Artie coming down the stairs and looking for his keys. "I'm off to get some bagels," he says, "and I want to come along." He insisting I needn't. "Stay in, it's cold, you're writing, why should you schlep?" I insisting I want to, and it went on like this, two old Jewish Kanakas, but he was 20 years older. This tug of war we do. I want to go. No, stay. I'll be right back. Like those ancient men at the corner table at Corky and Lenny's Delicatessen. Kvetching all morning into the afternoon because kibitzing is the way they choose to spend their remaining time on earth. And Artie was one of those. He loved to lie on the couch and watch his beloved Yankees. And after Susan asked him to, he would refuse to remove his shoes. "Why should I?" he would say. And so we drove to Baltazar, that synagogue of bakeries. and he parked in front of a no parking sign. And when I pointed it out, let them arrest me if they've got nothing better to do. And when we arrived back at the house, they were all up and hungry, and Artie laughing, "We did it! We got the bagels!" Who were we to each other, Artie? Is what I would ask him. I'm the schlemiel, he might say, who dated your sister-in-law after your brother died. 10 years already. And there was such a warmth. That word in Yiddish, heimish, comfortable, familiar, cozy. In his presence, I forgot he wasn't another brother. Yes, he said again, we did it, Phil and I. We got the bagels. On the ventilator for 2 weeks, the call from Susan, they're taking him off. And a small window for each of us, including Artie, on his hospital bed, masked like an alien. The rabbi reciting the blessing, the confession before departing, bringing atonement. It should be recited with a clear mind. Did you have a clear mind? If a person cannot speak, it may be said in their heart. Artie, you said it in your heart. It can be recited by both men and women. Artie, you were a mensch. On any day, even the Shabbat. It wasn't any day. It was a Thursday. If a person's children are present, Artie, your children were present, you should exhort them to follow the Torah. Artie, you exhorted them to follow your Torah. One should not leave you alone. We said in our broken words our farewell. Did you hear us? And at the last moment, all of us in our little windows, including you, Artie, we sang, "The Lord is God, the Lord is one." And we thank the doctors and the nurses, each of us. Okay, I will close with a poem that I will dedicate to Lois, my wonderful wife's mother and my mother-in-law. And it's called Walking to Jerusalem. Pedometer attached to her belt, your mother, spry and strong at 80, joins the other Methodist church members in calculating the 5,915 miles, no matter the weather, to add up all the way from Linesville, PA, to Jerusalem. They need not worry about miracles or pausing at the signs of the cross. They need not stop for security to check their purses for weapons. They need no visa nor baggage, no money to exchange for shekels, no guidebook, no guide. They need no ancient tongue or prophecies. They are simply, day by day, walking mile after mile, the sink to the table, uptown to the post office, down the block to visit the sick neighbor. Sundays to and from church. And when they walk far enough, adding up their pedometers together, they will arrive in Jerusalem and keep on walking. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for reading, Phil. That was amazing work. I'm so grateful that I get to have Phil Terman as a part of my daily work life. It's so rare to find a poet that can turn both the humorous and the tragic both into something that can lift us up.
Wow. Yeah. I said, Damien, I'm so happy that we're together at Clarion, and we've been for this last year, and hopefully in the future. You know, it's wonderful to have a real writer there with me to face.
Anybody who's going to mention Balthazar in a poem, I've got a big thumbs up. Spring Street, bistros. You gotta.
There you go.
I just want to say before we close, wow, I laughed and I cried and I laughed and I felt you took me out of my head and I needed to get out of my head and into my heart. So thank you.
Well, that's sweet. Thank you so much, Christina, and thanks so much for
Thank you. Thanks.
Wonderful project.
Thanks, Phil.
We really appreciate it.
All right.
Good night, everybody. See you on Thursday.
Thank
Have
you.
a great night, y'all.